Go ahead and call the meeting to order. First up tonight, we have some special recognition for former members of this board, valuable members of this community. We'd like to recognize Mr. Dietz, Mr. McMahon, and Ms. Woody, and present them with some wonderful commemorative plaques that we've had made. All three have served our community admirably for some very long times, both in the private sector, working in the community as members of this community. And really, we just can't say thank you enough. And we're blessed that y'all have been here for all the times that you've been here, and we're learning quickly. I think y'all have a wealth of knowledge that we're trying to catch up and get that. And we just can't, like I said, thank you enough for coming tonight and receiving these flags. Would anyone else on the board like to say anything?
Well, like you said, some have been on there lengthy. Brian's been on the board since 1903.
Yeah, I believe it.
No, thank you all so much.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and present you guys with y'all's brand new plaques that you can take home. We've got some plaques that we're going to unveil over here. Mr. McMahon, Mr. Dietz, Ms. Wood, you want to come on up? Brian, you get two.
I get two.
You get the one that was on the wall. The new one. We have to adapt. So here's the new one. Yes, sir. Thank you. And that's you. You can hang that one in your daughter's room.
No. She'll probably throw something at it. Like that.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations on being inducted into the Hall of Fame as well.
Yeah.
You get a couple plaques this month.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And then Miss Woody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again very much.
She wants your sleeve.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yeah, probably be a good
That's a nice
idea.
flag.
Beautiful.
Together?
Yeah.
Let's get a picture with them.
We'll put your sleeve on first. That would do. I don't know. Come on over here.
Yeah.
Hold it so that you
I'll have to put this on the seat right here.
Oh. Okay. Sorry.
Right here.
Alright. Go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I don't know if this thing moves. It's a... Nope, it doesn't move. Okay, that's going to be as good as it gets. You good?
Is that the right picture?
Yeah, as best I can get. Right there. Stand in there one more time. Try to
Everybody else making us look better.
I'm trying to get that thing out of the way. All right, there we go. All right.
Thank y'all.
Well deserved.
So, Mr. Chairman, I believe.
Well, you want me to?
Would you like to do that?
Okay, however you wish to proceed forward, Mr. Chairman. So, I believe. Any more of it? Commissioner Dietz? Mr. Dietz? Yes? You come on up here, sir. We'll get the sheet off. Sheet off, however you wish to do it.
That's William. I'll hit him. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Here.
And that is Brian's, it's still in the same place, we just scratched it and made number. Who is? William Bates. I don't know who he is, he's my kin. Very good. Very good. I know several of my wives. Oh, really? What did they do, Brian?
Updated my picture, I gave you the picture.
No, you damn baby.
Here.
Well, give you.
Thanks, sir.
Your wife smelling it.
All right. Thank you all. Moving on now to approval of the agenda. Is there any amendments needed to be made? So I'll seek a motion for approval.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All are in favor. Moving now to approval of the minutes from our work session, our budget retreat, and our regular meeting from the 21st and 14th. If there's no needed adjustments in these minutes, I'll seek a motion for approval of all three. Motion to approve all three minutes. And a second? Second. All in favor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The retreat we had at the Pearl Building was very informative and very well done, put together. There's a lot of, it's in the education.
A lot of information.
There's a lot of information. I was perusing it today. Just want to thank you.
Going now down to some of our administrative reports. First up is one that I'm sad to announce with receiving a letter of resignation from County Attorney Heather Baker. Ms. Baker has served our county 6 years, 8 years, 7.5, and she's been a constant for us, I know, on other planning boards, and will be surely missed. So, reporting on any other things, I don't really have any additional information at this time. So, does anyone else have another meeting? Or I'm sorry, another commissioner need to report on anything?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say I just want to thank Heather Baker for being so professional during the transition and everything, and I want to thank you. Best of luck to you.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Good luck.
All right, we'll move on down to Mr. Adams with the county manager report.
So yes, sir, I would like to say a couple of things. One is my appreciation to the former commissioner sitting here. I did work for them for their tenure here, or at least one of their tenures, and then so I appreciate their service to the community. Also, I do want to say to Heather, I greatly appreciate her work for Jackson County. I think 7.5 years. So she's been here a little less than a year longer than me, and I can almost say I grew up here. When I say grew up professionally here with Miss Baker at the helm of county attorney. So I do believe, she does have new opportunities, and I'm happy for you, Heather, for your new opportunities. But It is a gap, and it is something that I don't believe we'll be able to replace, Ms. Baker, but we'll just have to do the best we can to replace, as I've said before, maybe parts of you, but not necessarily you as a whole. And I do just want to say that I greatly appreciate her professionalism and her service to this county. And she's been a great assistance to me, and she's been great assistance to all county departments and all operations. And you're not moving away, so I think you'll still get some phone calls and so forth as we transition. But Heather, I really do appreciate you, and I appreciate working with you. Just jump into our standard manager summary or report. You can see in front of you the February zoning permits, February building permits. You can see in the month of February, we have one commercial zoning permit, two commercial building permits, and two renovation addition permits. You'll notice we didn't have one in January. That's because in January we basically didn't have any of the permits. It was mainly residential that we saw in January. Next item, I did provide some pictures of the updated pictures of the Animal Rescue Center. We do have a transition team formed right now, made up of myself, health department, the health director, Alicia Parham, our environmental supervisor, and also the animal control staff, along with public works. We're meeting now. We'll meet tomorrow, but we're meeting every 2 weeks, planning the transition. The contractor is still currently going through the punch-out list. I can't give an exact date. I do feel comfortable within the next couple of months we'll be transitioning in. Ultimately, just things like to let the board know there are things the contractor's doing, there's things we have to do also to prepare. If you recall, we went ahead and had a pre-inspection done by the state who oversees animal control or animal rescue centers. So they identified a list of things that we need to get done. So, for example, if you take the backyard, the back area, fenced-in area, we do have to bring in stone for that area. And then we also have to put things like carbon monoxide detectors in the facility, and nothing that's of great expense, but it does take time. And so we'll be meeting every 2 weeks, along with IT too, of just getting ready to transition into that facility. Currently, every time I've given a goal, something has backed that goal up. But currently, we are trying to look at a mid-April, but we're going to meet every 2 weeks and update that every 2 weeks until we decide we can actually move into the facility itself. But pretty much the facility itself is complete. Just a reminder to the board, it will take, there is an additional picture that hasn't been shown publicly. This is the storage building for ARF, the nonprofit operation out there. That is a 20 by 40 facility with 2 slide-up doors, 2 entry doors. It's also lit. So I believe they'll find this is much more storage space than what's available to them down at the park in Silva. And so that facility is up right now, but we are still transitioning and doing punch-out lists. Just what they call the condos here, that's the boiler that was installed that will also be able to utilize methane, and just giving you some pictures of the facility itself. Just also provide some information. That's the small dog park area. And this is the large dog park area. And again, just a reminder to the board, even though we may transition operations into the facility in April, we still have to get stabilization of not only the dog park, but the upper walking trail. So it may be more towards late spring, early summer before we get those facilities up. Next is the aquatic center. I thought I'd just provide pictures. Rusty took me up on the roof a couple of weeks ago, and this gives you an angle of the operations that you really just can't see from the road, and you can't see from the camera. The live camera that you see is over on the other end here. A couple of things in the last couple of weeks that's been done is that if you look here, what this is this is going to be the area where you have the party rooms, bathrooms, things of that nature. We're calling that area A. This picture is a couple of weeks old. 90% of the footers are done in what we're calling area A, where the bathrooms are. party rooms and things of that nature. 25% of the footers are done over here. This is the competition pool. Even though it doesn't look like a lot, we have gotten down to level in regards to the deep end of the pool, and that is the grade of the pool itself. Currently, right now, in the next couple of weeks, what we're looking to see is for them to complete the anchors of this pool. So let me zoom in here. Well, I thought I could zoom in. There's no zoom. Oh, here we go. So it's kind of hard to tell here, but this right here is one of the anchors edge where you see the blue is where they will be putting more anchors in. They probably got quite a few anchors, more anchors in now. They have 10 left from when I took this picture, but that's also just anchoring the pole down. So in the next couple of weeks, we're looking to complete the footings. You know, as I said, they were 25% done, but in the next couple of weeks, they're looking to complete the footings, complete the rock anchors, and start a retaining wall. And I think if you go right now, did I see the steel out there? The lift, one truckload of structural steel, and you drive out there, you'll see that. So we're moving along. I still haven't done the leisure pool yet. So as soon as the leisure pool is dug out, I'll come back and give a report to this board in regards to, if you recall, we had estimated quantities of rock removal and things of that nature, and what I'm going to do is wait till we get everything dug out, everything done to a point, and I can bring you and show you whether or not we're within budget or estimated budget in regards to rock removal and things of that nature. Um, we have two types of rock removal. One is where you're basically busting up the rock, and the other is boulders. Right now, we've gone over the where you really break through the rock quantity amount, but we've got actually make up for that in the boulder removal. And so, hopefully, when we start seeing this is a smaller pool, more shallow pool, so hopefully we won't see too much rock when we go to start excavating that. All right. And then the other items is the Center for Domestic Peace. As the board recalls, we did have a conversation in regards to um, where we're at as far as design at our budget retreat. And just a reminder to the board, and this is really for the public too, we basically have two designs right now. One design is around a little less than 7,000 square feet. The other design is about 8,200 square feet. The main difference between those two designs is the 7,000 square foot facility has 8 rooms with a staff room, bedroom with a bathroom. The 8,200 square feet has 10 client rooms that are much larger rooms, along with a staff room. They all have their own individual bathrooms. So right now we're finding that the 8,200 square foot facility will meet the needs significantly more than the 7,000 square foot facility. If you recall, it was a little over about $400,000 over budget from the original budget. I have reached out to Dogwood. I provided them this information. They are discussing, my understanding, they were discussing it today with staff, and I'm hopefully getting some feedback from them this week. I put that item on the agenda for the work session coming up, and then hopefully we'll get some good news from Dogwood as far as partnerships going forward with the larger 8,200 square foot facility. The next is I am glad to say that we, meaning the sheriff's office and administration office, we were able to submit the the $1,481,000 MAT program for the jail. This is the grant application itself. It did take us up to the due date of February 28th, but we were able to get it submitted. We will hear back by the end of March, and hopefully we will get some positive information, feedback on that $1.4 million grant. I'm appreciative of the sheriff, appreciative of the staff in the sheriff's office and in the jail, along with their grant writer. And then also we did have some assistance with some other programs as far as providing support letters and things of that nature. So hopefully we'll have a positive outcome of this grant to start developing an MAT program, a limited MAT program in the jail setting. That also includes providing transition services for those individual incarcerated people when they leave the jail setting. And that really is what it's exciting to talk about treating the incarcerated individual, that the build out of the services, the transition services, when they leave the facility is really going to be hopefully the base of building out overall services for all programming that goes beyond just treating incarcerated people. But that eventually will allow us to start talking about potentially reentry, excuse me, diversion programs, along with other programming that allow people to access services. So hopefully we'll have a positive outcome there. You're going to see, we'll talk later about the Dogwood grant that I'm asking for permission to apply for that also help this discussion. The next is some good news. I did receive last month notification from the North Carolina Association of Registered Deeds that Ms. Sims, Chandra Sims, she has completed all coursework and she is now officially a recognized certified register of deeds. So congratulations to Ms. Sims, and also Stephanie from her office. She's a certified deputy register of deeds. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
That's great. Congratulations to both of them. Do we have any informal comments from the public today?
I'm sorry.
Anyone signed up to speak?
No, sir.
Moving on now to new business. NCDOT's carbon reduction grant, NC Highway 107 Cullowhee. Mr. Poston.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is just a follow-up conversation to when we had a work session back in February about the carbon reduction grant that NCDOT has. This comes from the infrastructure bill from the federal government, monies that have been passed down. The state of North Carolina has earmarked several $1 million over the next 5 years to be spent on carbon reduction projects in rural areas of North Carolina. And we believe that we have a project that would be a good fit for the premise of what they're trying to do, which is the side path along NC 107. And just as a reminder, that project came to us through our planning processes. We talked about it in the Cullowhee Small Area Plan. We talked about it in our countywide pedestrian plan. And we're currently finalizing a feasibility study where most of our numbers come from that we've done and are currently wrapping up right now. So it's a timely project, as shovel ready as we have in this realm, and we believe it's a good candidate to move forward with this process. We with escalation costs included due to the time frame it would take to construct this project. We believe that the total project would be $2,087,200. The county's responsibility would be 20% of that, which would be $417,440. That would be, if the grant was awarded, that would be the total cost to the county based on the numbers that we have. I'll be happy to answer any questions that the board may have, but what staff is requesting today is just the permission to work with the RPO to submit that grant to the state.
What's the total length of sidewalk?
So the side path would be just under a mile. Yeah.
Questions from the board?
So just be clear, this would be given permission to submit this application with the understanding that the county is committing to the 20%.
Correct. Yes.
Would that come out of the general fund or?
So because of the timing of this, I think we can hold off from making that final decision. It would be a general fund allocation, but whether or not it comes out of fund balance or the Conservation, Preservation, Recreation Fund, I think that decision should be held off until we're actually to the point of expending those funds. But it would either be fund balance of either general fund balance, or CPR fund balance.
Could it be a mixture of those, or does it have to come out of one or the other? Can be. Okay.
Because what is the timeline, as far as the timeline on this,
Well,
when would we be actually?
Yeah, so it'll take some time. Once we're awarded, we'll have 3 years to complete the project and expend the funds. So it'll most likely go over multiple budget years for the county to expend all those funds and have the project built. We expect about a 2-year build out once you get all the contracting done with DOT, and then you go to bid and follow all the procedures that way and construction timelines.
Then, do we have a motion to move this on with Southwestern RPO?
I'll make a motion that we move it forward.
Second? Okay. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Stribley, Chairman Lutzen.
Yes.
Thank you all very much.
Moving on now to opioid settlement agreement, resolution 23-04. Ms. Baker.
Let's start with this letter. Yeah, that's good. So, a couple of years ago, I think, as you've all now come to understand, there was an opioid settlement. This was a national settlement, and North Carolina, of course, participated in that, and through that, we all 100 counties in North Carolina signed a memorandum agreement, and also some larger municipalities, to distribute those opioid funds. Most of the time you get a settlement like that, the majority of that goes to the state, and some of that may trickle down to your counties, local governments. In this case, and it was a real effort on behalf of the association, really with county managers, county attorneys, and county commissioners working together to say, no, we want more of that at the local level. So it took all 100 counties to sign on to it, and the agreement was 15% of that would go to the state. The rest, the remaining 85%, would be divided proportionately based on a few factors to all the counties. And that's what happened. And you've seen the discussions on those opioid funds that we get over the next 18 years. Well, the state has now had, and I think you all got a copy of this letter from the Attorney General, has another settlement. This one, I think the previous one was $26 billion. This is now $21 billion settlement. So it's a very large settlement, not quite as big as the previous. And this includes CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, Allergan, and Teva. They're calling it a second wave settlement, but the original MOA doesn't quite cover this. It did cover some additional funds, and we've had some other funds trickle in from that first one, but with this one being such a big amount in the second wave, the state wanted to do a new MOA to cover these funds so that once again, the counties and some of these large municipalities would get the majority share of this. And I did write down a few figures for you. The $600 million would be the estimated part, a little more than $600 million that would come to North Carolina. Of that, 600 plus million, 84.62% would go to counties and the few municipalities that were involved. So that is, again, a good share of that money. Jackson County's percentage is just barely over 0.5%, so 0.5 decimals. So I'd just say 0.5%, and whatever the final settlement amount ends up being, that's how our allocation will be received. And so if you want to go to, or I guess I could, can I do it from here? Okay, I can go to the resolution. So in order to sign off for this, again, they need all counties and municipalities participating. So I'm going to go ahead to this item. This is the resolution. This is the model resolution that the association has prepared, and your clerk has adopted this for Jackson County, and if you've not you've probably seen this or glanced at it, but it does talk about the seriousness of the opioid epidemic, and goes into the last paragraph here that Jackson County agrees to abide by the MOA and in the settlement with all of the second wave entities. And I'm happy to answer any question about this today, but I actually have some of these settlement documents sitting on my email, just waiting for us to adopt this, because you do this by DocuSign, and that's why the provision in here to allow the county manager or county attorney to sign on behalf, because usually we'd take this to you, but they do this electronically, and that allows me to sign it from my email.
Ms. Baker, what is the timeline on this? I've either overlooked it or is there one yet?
I don't know. I think all of this has to be done first to sign on it. They're still in they're very close to the final negotiations, but they need to know the percentage coming from North Carolina, and the more counties, municipalities sign off on this, the higher the settlement price. That's why we've done a really good job in the past of making sure all 100 counties are there. But April 18th is the date that they want everyone signed off on. So I imagine sometime in May or June we'll know final figures.
It'll be similar in scope of the first wave.
It'll be a little bit less, because that, just looking at the total settlements, 26 billion versus 21 billion national settlements, it's a little bit less, but not a whole lot. So I think it'll be close to the other amount.
Just so you know, what I did just real quick was just took the 600 million divided by the 750 of the previous allocation. That's 80%. And I did if you do 80% of our current 3.2, that becomes about 2.5. What I would not do, though, we made this mistake when we first started having this conversation initially. They made statements that we would see a significant portion of this funding up front. And so, but nobody defined the word significant or majority. And so, simply put, in my mind, I was thinking significant or majority means 51%. Right? Majority means at least half. And it really did not end up being that. If you recall, our 3.2 million, it ended up being, we get larger allocations initially, but then it dwindles down to 150 to 160 a year. So my point on that, Mark, is I just would not, I did the real quick math, not guaranteeing it, about 2.5 versus 3.2, but until we see the numbers, I would not be making any even guesstimates of how that's going to be distributed and over what period of time. And so we will just provide you that spreadsheet when it's provided to us.
You read my mind.
Yeah.
Ms. Becker, I just want to thank you. We had some discussion about whether the MAT program in our jail, and what that affects the court and sentencing. Well, out of the 21 mitigation factors, 3 of them are favorable if they complete and participate in this program. So thanks for that research.
Any additional questions? Seek a motion for approval.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Letson?
Yes. Moving on to the Dogwood Health Trust Grant, and Mr. Adams, the floor is yours.
Keep forgetting this. You do something 4 or 5 years straight, and it's hard to stop bringing the mouse up here when there's already a mouse up here. So this, I'm here before the board today to ask permission to submit this Dogwood grant. As you can see, I provided the information that this Dogwood grant is saving lives from preventable death, funding opportunity for opioid planning. You can see right here it says the funding available will consider grants up to $300,000 per year for 2 years. You can see this is a planning grant, just so you know. It cannot be used, say, to purchase the Vivitrol. It cannot be used to purchase actual counseling services. So what I'm requesting the board to do is allow me to apply for this grant, and this is really for a planning and coordinating grant. You can see there's details of the particular grant information here in the next few pages. But you can see that it's the facilitation and or coordination of collaborative planning, needs assessment, partnership building, development of workforce, and sustainability plans, capacity building, technical assistance, and administrative reporting. I'm focusing on the facilitation and coordination. I'm focusing on the needs assessment and data collection. I'm also focusing on the partnership building and focusing on capacity building and administration reporting. Capacity building meaning, when I talk about partnerships, it's really is to follow through and have this person to go through and really look at Exhibit B. If you go back to the memorandum of agreement with the state, if you recall, there's option A and option B. We're trying to focus on some option A services, i.e., MAT program for incarcerated people. That was part of the option A. If you remember that little, I call it the bubble chart that I presented to you. Option B really is more of a coordinated planning process that requires a more diverse set of stakeholders. So I haven't put in this grant that we are absolutely going through option B, but what I have stated in this grant application, or would state in this grant application, is that we would follow the option B model and we would include most of the stakeholders eventually in the planning process. These are just obvious stakeholders that need to be eventually involved, and if you're not in a full-blown planning process, eventually involved in the process of having discussions, and that's anywhere from your court systems to your mental health providers to your DSS to your health department, all what you would consider logical partners that need to be involved in this process anyways. So the capacity building and coordination, what that really is what I'd hope this person can do is, or this department and person can do is can help make the connection. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to my summary that I tried to just provide to the board. Ultimately, in the planning process, it could build additional capacity by connecting programs with each other with unmet needs. For example, you've identified several areas in North Carolina MOA, option A, high impact abatement strategies. The interest included addiction treatment and reentry programs for incarcerated persons. We've had that conversation. You know, obviously, I use this language too. I've cut some of this into the application just so you know. The Sheriff's Office, as we all know, has applied for a grant for this MAT program. They've awarded the grant will fund a limited MAT program for incarcerated persons. It's anticipated that the substance abuse coordinator position requesting the Dogwood grant will assist in coordinating and connecting the client to the services. So ultimately, what will happen if you go back and remember what the sheriff's grant was? It is providing personnel for the sheriff in the jail setting. It is also providing contract services to help with peer support and connections outside of the jail setting, but it's still going to require some additional coordinating efforts, follow through with these individuals. And so I feel like that this person can help make those connections and continue to help make those connections, and it will provide the personnel supportive services that are direct personnel services beyond, the sheriff will potentially have a person in the jail setting. They really won't leave that jail setting. We will have a private contract outside with peer support, but their private contract limited to the services we contract with. This coordination position can help continue to coordinate, but then we also collect data. If you recall, this grant will require us to maintain data on these individuals, not just these individuals, but anybody else who accesses these services. But I do believe this person can help the coordination of these efforts. The program will work with Jackson County departments, nonprofits, and other stakeholder groups to improve an integrated approach addressing substance abuse disorders. Action plans will be facilitated and created. All new programs, approaches to addressing substance abuse disorders will be monitored to track community impacts of the coordinated efforts. So this is also a planning process when we start talking about these opioid dollars. Right now, we are accumulating our annual opioid dollars. At some point, we need to create a plan of how are we going to expend these funds. And I think it's great news that we are getting the second allocation, because the first allocation, if we don't have the first allocation and we're looking to continue some type of administrative support, that would put a big dent into that money before you even get into services. I think the second allocation coming in is going to allow us to continue some type of coordinating efforts even beyond this grant, and to continue to try to enhance their services. This also will help create a plan on where these funds are to be expended in the next 5 to 10 years. And so if you look at I'll go back up here. So the request for allocation is for one full-time substance abuse recovery coordinator position, along with all associated fringe benefits, all costs associated with office space allocation, supplies, operational costs, travel, training, mileage, costs such as venue rental, meals associated with holding larger planning meetings, and contracted consulting services, temporary services, and or part-time assistance. And so I'll explain that when you look at the proposed budget that's in front of you. It's in your packets also. You can see this whole first category here is the full-time position. It's proposed to be at a grade 25 and budgeting at step 12, but you don't know what step that person would be until you go through the application process. I would propose this person to be the starting salary would be based upon our hiring plan. So that's all dictated by their experience and things of that nature. This all has fringe benefits associated with it. So with this full-time position over a 2-year period, it'd be $186,400 and almost $3. You go and look at the other expenses associated with this position. What you can see here, for the most part, these are all just general office supplies, meeting supplies. You can see here meeting supplies. There's a little bit higher number there. That's anticipated for your larger meetings when I start talking about bringing in the other stakeholders. I don't see that on a weekly basis. That could end up being, and I'm still working these details out, being anywhere from 4 to 6 meetings in a year, but these would be larger type meetings. You can see travel and training. I did have a conversation with the counterpart in Buncombe County, who's basically running a very similar coordinated program. One of the things that she gave me advice on was they did not put this in their grant to Dogwood, was that she really needed to be able to travel a little bit, go through seminars and educate herself, even though she was a counselor and she had a background in this area. She really recommended we put in a travel budget for this individual to go out and educate themselves, not just locally, but regionally and statewide. And ultimately, you can see other line items here. I don't think we can purchase a vehicle here, so you can see from vehicle mileage reimbursement. County, we would go try to find them a car, but as far as this grant, we would track mileage and try to get the grant to reimburse its mileage. Also, you can see right here office space allocation of $19,963. That is based upon what we call it's an allocated cost plan. An allocated cost plan, what it does is this is something the finance office goes through and creates an annual, we create an annual allocated cost plan. And what it does is it takes our space and it takes all costs associated with that space. That's power, water and sewer, housekeeping, overhead, such as finance in regards to running payroll and checks and so forth. And ultimately, it's an acceptable accounting way to associate cost with space. And so we were able to associate $19,963 to reimburse us cost for the space and all the overhead costs associated with it. As far as capital, I have seen that this grant will award minor capital, such as computers and things of that nature. So I felt comfortable putting that in there. You can see there is this line here, $50,000 per year to $100,000. There's a couple of things that I would think that we would want to do from the larger plan perspective is that, let me back up a little bit. Just a reminder, our Council on Government Southwestern COG, they have gone out and they're getting ready. They sent out a request for proposals, and they're getting ready to start a regional planning process for how to expend these opioid dollars and put opioid priorities. I can see that this person coming in would need to hire a consultant when we start doing these larger planning processes to basically help memorialize some of this information. Also, I can see at certain key points this person needing temporary help. And so this wouldn't be full time, this is bringing in part time. All that would not start off immediately. This person would need to be hired, come in. They would need to assess their needs and then come back and request to the county what their needs are. But I am trying to build in some monies in there for professionals, consulting services, and temporary part-time assistance. This last sentence provides stipends to those with lived experience. That also was advice given to me from Buncombe County. So as we go out and start a larger planning process, and we start trying to involve, you know, people other than paid professionals who are already involved in the world. So, for example, we'll obviously get the health department and DSS and some of these mental health providers to participate in this planning process with us. But when we start trying to go out and trying to get people with lived experience, peer experience, and things of that nature, I got advice from Buncombe County that it would have been nice. They felt like they would have gotten more participation if they were able to just develop some type of stipend system, a small stipend system to help with, to get participation from people beyond salaried people in this process. So I put that in there because that was advice given to me that they wish they would have done that in the past. And so ultimately you can see the proposed year budget is $368,429. And Mr. Chairman, that is basically this grant is due coming up mid March. And so I'm looking for permission to apply for this grant. I can tell you this grant would be awarded the next fiscal year. So this isn't something that would be started next month or the month after. It would be awarded and be available come July 1. And just so you know, that lines up, even though we're going to find out the fate of the sheriff's office grant by the end of this month or mid-April, that grant also lines up at the beginning of the fiscal year. So all of these would line up together as far as starting this programming in the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1.
Any questions?
Question. I read on that first page of the agenda where they're particularly interested, or Dogwood was particularly interested in projects that include multi-county planning efforts. Would that require us to partner with that grant?
Now, there's a section in their grant application that asks what percentage of these monies are going to be spent, and they literally list all the counties out in their service area, and the answer for us is 100% in Jackson County. Okay, so it's not. Now, having said that, what I'm going to put in the grant is this person's going to participate in the regional planning process that is being put on by our Council of Government. So it doesn't mean we're not going to participate and try to plan regional, but this particular grant is for 100% to be spent in Jackson County. And just so you know, that would say Buncombe counties and these other counties, they all the funds were being expended 100% in those areas now.
Any additional questions? Seek a motion for approval of this grant.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Chairman Letson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on now to some of our appointments. We have with the Council on Aging 3 renewals with Miss Debbie Coffey, Miss Peggy White, and Mr. Jim Mordensinger. All of their terms will expire in March and have agreed to take on a second term until March of 2026. Seek a motion for approval for Miss Coffey, Miss White, and Mr. Montesinger, sorry, for the Department of Aging.
Motion that we,
Approve these appointments.
yeah, the reappointments.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Ledson.
Yes. And then for the planning department, or for the planning council, Jackson County Planning Council, we've received resignation for my appointed position with Brad Waldrop. He's taken on a new role with the Silva Town Board. So he is stepping down, and I will be in the process of finding a replacement. So if anyone on YouTube would like to volunteer, it's a wonderful board, and you get to see a lot of what happens in the county before it's made public. So tonight we do have, are there any questions from the press tonight? No. We do have a closed session legal issue that we need to discuss. So for closed session, do I give us like a 20-minute break, or since this is our first closed session, do I need to adjourn for a few minutes, or?
There could be a motion to go into closed session and a vote, and you can take a break if you want, or at least for a few minutes to let everybody else leave.
Okay.
So that's up to you.
So do we have a motion to go into close? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, so the two, if you said this, I apologize, I didn't hear. The two reasons are going to be for legal and for personnel.
Correct.
Do we go to closed session?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Are they out of closed session or not?
Yeah, they're out.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go back. No action was taken in closed session tonight. We do have an amendment to the agenda.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda and add county attorney position, I guess maybe 3A or 3B,
New business.
yeah, for new business.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? All right, so now we move into 3 or 4, or new business 4, need a motion to direct the county to advertise for our new job position, county attorney.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Chairman Letson.
Yes. All right, with no further business, we have work sessions on the 14th at 1 p.m., regular session at 6:30 p.m. on the 21st. Are there any additional questions from the press? I'll seek a motion for dismissal.
Move we dismiss.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.